Hey everyone, Obsessive Prepper AZ. Today I'm going to can corned beef. It's a March morning and I figured what an appropriate time to do it is to buy a bunch of corned beef when it's on sale and get it into jars so that I can use throughout the year. So I've already opened up a couple of my packages of corned beef, and to the left there you can see that I've got the seasoning packets. I went ahead and rinsed those off, cleaned them off, and I put them off to the side because I'm going to use those. And then here to the right is my corned beef. Now I've opened up those two packages and I've gone ahead and trimmed the top of this bottom one here, and I got all the fat off, and I just wanted to show you the difference between the two. Try to get as much fat off as you can possibly get with your beef. You don't want that into your jars. So I went ahead and did that. And I'm going to put it into cubes. You don't need to watch me dice it into cubes, about 1.5 inches in cube size. So just wanted to show you what I've got going here. I plan on starting with 7 quarts. I've got 8 packages of corned beef. It may very well go into a little bit more than that, but if it does, I'll probably end up having dinner. But I'll save the poundage. I'll tell you all how much went into 7 quarts when I'm done. I haven't yet started this. I've never done corned beef before. If you've all seen my videos, I do chicken and beef and sausages. I've done all sorts of meats. So refer back to my videos on that if you want any information on those. Okay, so this is going to go from start to finish because I have people comment all the time that haven't seen my other videos, so I kind of wanted to just walk through in case you've never seen any of my videos. Now over here in the corner, this is what I use, Clorox cleanup. By all means, use whatever you want. I'm a bleach freak. I love the sterilization of bleach, so that's what I use. And what I want to tell everybody is when you are canning, you need to make sure your entire environment around you is clean. I will bleach spray on my handles of my sink, my faucet, my sinks, my countertops, everything. My entire workspace has been bleached. Okay, now going to our canning products. I have a 23 quart Presto canner here, and then when you're canning meats and things like that, you want to make sure that you get a pressure cooker that has a gauge. There is no way of accuracy, and when you're doing that, you really want to make sure that you have something that is guidelines. Get your ball book. If you don't have a ball cookbook, by all means, go buy it. That's like the Bible to pressure cook canning and water bathing. So in my Presto cooker, mine's a 23 quart. It calls for 3 quarts of water. And what I do is I just mark my jug here and I fill up the water and pour it in versus a guessing game. Also, if you've never dealt with hard water, if you have hard water, you want to throw some vinegar in. That keeps your jars from getting a cloudy residue all over your jars, and then you end up having to clean it, and it's just so bad for your jars and lids. So I recommend, and you know what, I don't measure it. You know, I just pour a little bit in. No real guideline, you know, a couple tablespoons. Sometimes I probably go extreme and put a half a cup in, or a quarter cup, but you know, just as long as you get some vinegar into your water. Also, I've got my jars, my lids, if you can see them there, my lids and my water. Now this is something that you can have on your burner while you're doing everything else. On a low heat. You want it hot, but you do not want it boiling because that will ruin the integrity of your gasket. And also the flexibility of your lid gets too weak, so when it is canning, you'll see it end up buckling. And you'll see that if you over can or do too much pressure where your lids almost buckle. And so just leave it on a low heat and you know, hot but low heat until you're ready to doing your canning. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on doing my meat. Like I said, let me get this set up here again, sorry. There you go. Like I said, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I've got these, it's going to take me a little while to trim all this, but I'm going to go ahead and put them into cubes. Let's see if you can see it. Something like that. to pack into my jars. So what I'll do is I'll fill this bowl up. And then what's nice also is after you've trimmed your corned beef, if there's any extra fat, you can by all means at that point throw it off on the side and trim that extra little bit of fat off that you get into that. You don't want that into your corned beef, into your jars. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing this. When I'm ready to load my jars, I'll get back with you. Okay everyone, I'm back, and here's my meat. It's a pretty hefty bowl of it, and that was 8 packages. I had said 7 packages, but it was 8 packages, and wanted to show you real quick. That is the meat that I showed you all that I'm going to go ahead and cook up, because there was so much fat in the center of it. I'm going to go ahead and do a recipe on corned beef, and then also showing you how to make a great dish using your dehydrated cabbage. I also took the packages of seasonings that come in your corned beef and poured them in a bowl. I also mixed in some pepper seasoning, and garlic salt into this mixture. You're going to need your pickling salt or your canning salt, because if you use regular iodine salt, it'll make your product cloudy, and so it's just better to use your pickling salt. And so I'm going to go ahead and get my jars out of my oven. And like I've told you in the past, I put my jars in my oven after I've got them out of the dishwasher. I turn my oven to 225 and I sterilize it. So my jars are super hot. I found this the best way versus washing and drying. I just go ahead and use my dishwasher because I know that it has a sterilization mode. And so anyways, all I'm going to do is what I do is I take my meat and I'm going to pack them in my jars. And just keep going through and packing your jars. Once you're done packing your jars, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a teaspoon of my salt in per jar. And you want about 1 inch headspace in your jars. And the reason why I use this funnel is because of it just keeps the lids, the rim around your jars cleaner, so you're not having to deal with such a mess of wiping clean when it's time to put your lids on. So it's just better to try to keep things clean, organized. Clean up as you go in steps. It makes it so much easier than fighting a mess at the end. And when you're cooking in a clean environment, it's just so much easier to deal with. So keep packing my jars. I'm trying to do it fast enough so you're not getting bored with me. So like I said, just pack them to about 1 inch, and that's where it starts to curve up into your jar. Now, you do not have to add any moisture to your jars, any broth or anything like that, because when your meat cooks, it puts out enough juices on its own, which is really great. And when I get done with pressure cooking it, I will show you that. And you will be completely amazed. Now, I'm also putting in the seasonings in their whole form. I'm not going to grind them up, because what I will do is when it's time for me to use my corned beef, what I will go ahead and do is rinse it a little bit and get rid of all the peppers and stuff like that, so I have a little bit cleaner of a product to shred. Because what my intentions are on the corned beef is to shred it, to be able to make things like corn sandwiches, corned beef and cabbage with some potatoes, things like that. So, all right. So clearly, I would have to say, in doing all of this now, if I was going to buy packages of my corned beef, I've got enough in my bowl here to do 1 more quart. I'm going to go ahead and put it into my mixture that I've got over here off to the side. Let me clean my hands real quick. So I would have to say that to plan on a 3-pound package of corned beef per quart. So that's what I've got there, 21 pounds of corned beef there. So just kind of a simple guideline. You don't want to pack your jars too tight because you definitely want the heat to get in and around all the meat. So like I said, what I'm doing now is I'm putting a teaspoon of my pickling salt, canning salt, in my jars. And then I'm also going to add a teaspoon of my seasonings. It might end up being a little bit more than a teaspoon. I'll see once I get done, but I want to reserve some for what on my cooking pot over here with my other corned beef. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my mixture, and then I'm going to go ahead. So it's about 1.5 teaspoons of seasonings. Okie dokie. So now at that point, what I want to do is get my my lids, not boiling, but hot. And what I'm going to do is all you do is dip a paper towel into that hot water, and you're going to clean your rims of your jars. The purpose of that is if you do not clean your rims really good and make sure there's no product on them, you could have a problem with your product failure of your jars not sealing. Now, it doesn't ruin your product, but you will not be able to store this on your shelf at that point. You're going to have to put it in a refrigerator and use your product. So, I mean, take that extra time, get your rims cleaned. Okay, so I got that done. Now this is a little device that, or for canners, and it's got a magnet on the end. Really handy when you're dealing with the hot water and trying to reach into your saucepan of hot water. It lifts it up. Now you want to tighten your lids. You don't want them super tight. You want them to be tight to the touch, but not like really just wrenched on there. So just get along and do that. Hot. Like I've told you before, I have never canned corned beef. And so this is a first for me. I'm really excited by it because I know it's going to turn out great. I love corned beef. The one deal I have to say is the most time consuming on this whole project is cleaning your meat, getting the fat off your meat. Alright, so that's my last one. Okie dokie, so I've got my 7 quarts here. I'm going to go ahead and get you over to the pressure cooker so that you can see what I got going on over there. Just one second. Okay, so I'm over here, got my jars. Now one thing I wanted to show you all is when you're cooking on a flat top, don't grab your pressure cooker and move it across your glass top. What you will end up doing is scratching the heck out of your glass top. So pick it up and move it. So all I'm going to do at this point is load my jars into my pressure cooker. And it will fit your 7 quarts just perfectly fine in the Presto 23 quart. And then put my lid on. Okay, so then like I said, lift it up and put it back on your burner. Okay, so what you want to do is I'm going to get in here a little bit closer now so you can see what's going on. Let me lower this a tad. Alrighty, zoom in so I can show you what's going on. Okay, perfect. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to cook your, okay, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna cook this, and you're gonna let this pressure cooker vent. And what's going to happen is on the top of your pressure cooker, this little device is going to pop up. And then, as you can see, it pops up. Then what it does is it lets steam come out. And what you want to do is you want to let your pressure cooker vent out of this little vent here. You can see it, for 10 minutes before you put your weight on. Because if you don't do that, the pressure's not correct inside, it hasn't released all the air, and you get like it misreads on your gauge, and then also you can't get rid of your air. So you just want to let it vent for 10 minutes. You can feel it come out when it gets to that heat. I set my timer, let it vent for 10 minutes. At that point, I'll put my weight on my pressure cooker. You will build up to, my area is 11 pounds of pressure. So you have to refer to your ball cookbook to find out what temperature you want to cook at. But mine is 11 pounds of pressure. So what will happen is my dial will get all the way up to 11 pounds of pressure. I'll start backing down my heat. Now what you never want to do is let it drop below that 11 pounds of pressure. If your area is 13 pounds of pressure, don't let it drop below that. Because once it's gotten to the 11 pounds of pressure, it has got to cook for 90 minutes. Now if you drop below that pound of pressure, then you're going to have to start that whole 90-minute process over again. And when you're sitting around babysitting your pressure cooker, it's a nightmare. So just make sure you follow all these guidelines. A lot of people skip steps. You don't want to sit around waiting. You don't pay attention to it. And you really have to babysit it to make sure you have the product turn out well. So I'm going to go ahead, it's on high heat, I'm going to let it vent for 10 minutes. Once it gets into 10 minutes, I'm going to put this on, and then I'm going to slowly, not at one time, start backing down my temperatures. Now you have to back down your temperature, because otherwise you're going to watch your gauges go up to like 15 plus pounds of pressure. You do not want that. You want to maintain it at that, for me, 11 pounds of pressure, even maybe at 12 pounds of pressure, not much higher than that, but I never want to go below that 11 pounds of pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and let this get where it needs to go, and then I'll come back at you when it gets to pressuring. Okay, so I'm at 11 pounds of pressure. I've set my my timer for 90 minutes, and so all I'm going to do is, like I said, once it gets to it's vented for 10 minutes, you put your weight on, you build your pressure up to your pounds of pressure, which is mine is 11 pounds of pressure. You set your timer for 90 minutes, and you let this thing do its job. Now you want to babysit it. You don't want it to go too much over a pound, so let's call it 12 pounds of pressure for me, and you never want it to go below that 11 pounds of pressure. So that being said, I'm just going to sit here and watch this. And then also I wanted to show you, while I've got that going, is in this pot here, I've got my corned beef that I had trimmed with the extra pieces and all that fattiness that I showed you, and so I'm going to hand pick all that. But I wanted to show this to you because I'm doing a video on top of the canning the corned beef. I'm going to show a video on making corned beef and cabbage. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use my cans of dehydrated, let's see if I can get it in there, coleslaw mix and cabbage mix. So I'm going to use that when it's time. So if you want to see how I do this and what I put into my corned beef and cabbage used in food storage, check back with me and on the other video, and hope you enjoy. Okay, so I've got my jars out of my pressure cooker. I let it pressure cook for 90 minutes. Then you let the pressure cooker cool down. It takes approximately a half an hour. And once this little thingy pops back down and you have no more air coming out of your vent, then you're okay to open up your pressure cooker and pull your jars out. Just be very careful that you don't burn yourself with the steam or anything. So I've got my jars out, and I just kind of want to show you. I mean, you just heard that pop. That was one of my cans sealing, my jars sealing. But look how hot they are inside. And then something else. I I did not add any broth to this. So just to give you an idea, this is the broth that cooks out of the meat. So it's pretty amazing to see how much juice is actually, there's another nog, how much juice is actually in your meats. So I'm so excited that these are turned out wonderful, but it's just amazing how hot and how much juice comes out of the meats. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said earlier, I am doing a meal that I am doing on a different video that is corned beef and cabbage that I'm doing with my remnant corned beef. And I'm going to use my dehydrated coleslaw and cabbage mixture. And so, you know, if you want to see what I do on that video, refer to my corned beef and cabbage video. But I hope you enjoyed the video on my corned beef. There's another pop, so that means they're selling on their own. Blessings.